Title: The tale woven by the forest spirits. Once upon a time, deep within an ancient forest shrouded in mystery, there lived a community of spirits. These beings, neither human nor animal, wove the fabric of life that sustained the forest. They called themselves the Weavers, for their essence was intertwined with the trees, streams, and creatures that thrived under the emerald canopy. Among the weavers was a young spirit named Alara. She was curious and full of wonder, always seeking to learn more about the world beyond the forest. Unlike the older spirits, who found contentment in their eternal work, Alara longed to explore and understand the whispers of the wind that spoke of distant lands. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest bathed in golden light, Alara approached the elder tree. This ancient tree, with roots stretching to the heart of the earth, served as the source of wisdom for the weavers. Its voice was deep and resonant, like the echoes of time itself. Alara, the elder tree began, sensing her presence. "What brings you here tonight?" "I wish to know about the world beyond our forest," Alara replied, her voice a mix of excitement and hesitation. "The wind carries stories of mountains that touch the sky and oceans that stretch endlessly. Are these places real?" The elder tree chuckled softly, its branches swaying as if in thought. "They are real, my child. The world is vast and filled with wonders. But leaving the forest is not without risk. You must tread carefully, for the balance we maintain here is delicate." Alara's eyes sparkled with determination. "I wish to see these wonders, to understand the threads that connect our forest to the greater world." The elder tree was silent for a moment before speaking again. "If this is your desire, then I grant you a blessing. But remember, the forest will always be your home, and the bond you share with it must never be broken." With the elder tree's blessing, Alara set off on her journey. As she stepped beyond the forest's edge, the world opened up before her, rolling meadows painted with wildflowers, rivers gleaming like silver under the moonlight, and mountains standing as guardians of the horizon. Alara encountered creatures she had only heard about in the whispers of the wind. A family of deer guided her through a dense fog. A wise owl shared stories of ancient times. Even a mischievous fox became her companion for a time, leading her to hidden places where the earth seemed to hum with magic. But as days turned into weeks, Alara began to notice a change within herself. The vibrant energy that had always pulsed through her began to wane. Her connection to the forest, the source of her life, was growing weaker with every step she took away from it. One night, as she rested under a star-filled sky, Alara heard a faint melody. It was a song, woven by the wind, calling her back to the forest. She realized then that while the world was filled with beauty, her essence belonged to the emerald canopy she had left behind. With a heavy heart, Alara turned back. Her journey home was arduous, for her strength had diminished. Yet, as she drew closer to the forest, she felt its energy reaching out to her, guiding her steps. The trees whispered her name, the streams sang with joy, and the creatures she had known all her life welcomed her back with open arms. When Alara finally stood before the elder tree, she knelt in gratitude. "I have seen the wonders of the world," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "But I now understand that my place is here, among the weavers." The elder tree's voice was warm and forgiving. "You have learned a great truth, Alara. The threads of the world are many, but it is our bond to our home that gives us strength. Welcome back." From that day on, Alara became one of the most dedicated weavers, her experiences outside the forest enriching her understanding of the delicate balance they maintained. She often shared her tales with the younger spirits, inspiring them to cherish the forest and the threads that connected them to the greater world. And so, the ancient forest continued to thrive, its story woven by the spirits who called it home. Alara's journey became a part of the tapestry, a reminder that while the world is vast and beautiful, the heart always knows where it belongs. As the seasons passed, Alara's tales of her journey beyond the forest became legendary among the weavers. Young spirits gathered around her, eager to hear about the meadows that glowed with golden light, the rivers that sang their own songs, and the mountains that seemed to touch the heavens. Alara wove these stories into songs, each thread of her memory adding a new layer to the collective wisdom of the forest. One crisp autumn morning, Alara noticed a change in the air. The whispers of the wind carried a new melody, a song she did not recognize. It spoke of a disturbance far beyond the forest's edge, a shadow creeping through the land, draining life from the world it touched. Alarmed, Alara approached the elder tree. "The wind brings troubling news," she said, her voice steady but concerned. "Something dark is spreading, and I fear it will one day reach our forest." The elder tree's branches swayed in contemplation. "The balance of the world is fragile, Alara. If darkness spreads unchecked, it will affect us all. But confronting it is not a task for one spirit alone." Alara bowed her head, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Then we must act together. The weavers have the power to mend and strengthen the threads of life. We cannot let this shadow unravel the tapestry we've worked so hard to preserve." The elder tree's voice deepened, resonating with authority. "You have wisdom beyond your years, Alara. Gather the others and prepare. This will be a test of your unity and resolve." With the elder tree's guidance, Alara rallied the spirits of the forest. The weavers, though accustomed to their peaceful lives, rose to the call. They joined their powers, weaving threads of light and protection around the forest. The trees glowed softly with an inner energy, and the streams shimmered like silver ribbons. But Alara knew the battle would not be won by defense alone. She and a group of brave spirits ventured beyond the forest, following the wind's song to the source of the darkness. Their journey led them to a barren wasteland, where the air was heavy with despair, and the ground cracked under their feet. At the heart of this desolation, they found the shadow, a swirling mass of dark energy, feeding on the land's life force. Alara stepped forward, her light glowing brightly against the oppressive darkness. "Why do you consume the world?" she called out, her voice firm but tinged with sorrow. The shadow shifted, its form taking on the shape of a figure tall and imposing, yet hollow. "I am the void," it replied, its voice echoing like a distant storm. "I exist to claim what has been neglected, to take back the threads that have been abandoned." Alara's heart ached as she realized the truth behind the void's words. It was not a force of pure malice, but a manifestation of imbalance, born from the neglect and destruction caused by others who had forgotten the importance of harmony. She reached out her hands, her light growing brighter. "Then let us weave you back into the tapestry. You are a part of this world, and together we can restore balance." The void hesitated, its form wavering. Alara's companions joined her, their light merging with hers to create a radiant web of life. Slowly, the shadow began to dissolve, its dark energy absorbed into the threads of the weaver's creation. The wasteland around them softened, new shoots of green breaking through the cracked earth. When the last of the void faded, Alara and her companions stood in silence, their hearts heavy yet hopeful. They had not destroyed the shadow, they had transformed it, weaving it back into the world's fabric as a reminder of the importance of care and unity. Returning to the forest, Alara shared the story of their journey. The weavers sang songs of healing and renewal, their voices carrying hope to every corner of the land. The forest thrived once more, its heart stronger for the trials it had faced. And so, the tale of Alara and the weavers became a beacon of wisdom for generations to come, a story of courage, compassion, and the power of unity in the face of darkness. Years passed, and Alara's legacy became deeply embedded in the forest's lore. The weavers, inspired by her courage and wisdom, began to see their role in the world differently. They understood that their work was not confined to the forest alone but interconnected with the balance of life beyond their borders. One day, as Alara wandered through the forest, she noticed a sapling growing near the edge of the woods. Its leaves shimmered faintly, as though carrying traces of the light woven during her journey to confront the void. She knelt beside it, sensing a unique energy within the young tree. The elder tree's voice drifted on the wind, reaching her. "That sapling is a gift, Alara. It carries the essence of the balance you helped restore. Its roots will grow deep, anchoring harmony to this land." Alara gently placed her hands on the sapling, feeling its warmth. She whispered, "May you grow strong and remind those who come after us of what we've learned, that the threads of life are fragile but stronger when united." As seasons turned to years, the sapling grew into a magnificent tree. Its golden leaves reflected sunlight, and its roots extended far and wide, connecting with the elder tree and the heart of the forest. The weavers began to call it the Harmony Tree, a living testament to the unity between light and shadow. Alara, though still youthful in spirit, could feel the passage of time within herself. One quiet evening, she sat beneath the Harmony Tree, gazing at the stars that peeked through the canopy. Her journey had taught her much, but there was one lingering question in her heart. What lies beyond the stars? She whispered, her voice carrying a mix of curiosity and wonder. The elder tree, as ancient as the stars themselves, responded gently. "That is a mystery even I do not fully know. But perhaps it is a tapestry yet to be woven, waiting for those brave enough to seek its threads." Alara smiled, her heart swelling with the familiar longing for exploration. Yet, she knew her place remained here, among the weavers. She had learned that her adventures, though filled with wonders, were meaningful because of the home she returned to. As the moon rose high, bathing the forest in silver light, Alara closed her eyes. The whispers of the forest wrapped around her like a lullaby, and she felt the presence of the weavers, the elder tree, and even the Harmony Tree in her heart. The balance she had fought for was secure, and the forest thrived in its peaceful rhythm. And so, Alara's story became a cornerstone of the weaver's teachings. The younger spirits would often gather beneath the Harmony Tree to hear her tales, dreaming of the day they might add their own threads to the great tapestry of life. They would sing songs of her bravery and whisper her name to the wind, ensuring her legacy would never be forgotten. In the end, the forest remained as it always had, alive, connected, and eternal, its story forever woven by the spirits who called it home. One fateful dawn, as the first light of the sun filtered through the forest canopy, an unusual visitor arrived at the edge of the woods. It was a Humana young girl, her steps hesitant but filled with curiosity. She carried a small pouch filled with seeds and a journal tucked under her arm. Her eyes widened as she took in the radiant glow of the Harmony Tree, its golden leaves shimmering like a beacon. Alara, sensing the presence of someone new, approached cautiously. It had been centuries since a human had entered the forest. The weavers had always remained unseen by human eyes, their existence hidden in the folds of nature. But this girl seemed different. Her heart radiated an earnest desire to understand, not to harm. "Who are you?" Alara asked, her voice soft yet firm. The girl startled but quickly composed herself. "My name is Lyra," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I come from a village beyond the mountains. Our land is dying. The rivers no longer flow, and the crops wither before they can bear fruit. I've heard stories of this forest, of its magic and the spirits who protect it. I came to seek your help." Alara studied Lyra carefully, her luminous form glowing faintly in the morning light. Your journey must have been difficult. Few can make it past the mountains and the shadowed valleys. What is it you hope to find here? Lyra opened her pouch, revealing seeds that appeared lifeless and gray. These seeds are all we have left. If I could bring back even a fragment of the life and harmony that thrives here, perhaps our village could heal. Alara's heart ached at the sight of the withered seeds. She knew the forest's power could help, but it was not something to be taken lightly. The balance they maintained was fragile, and sharing their energy with the outside world required great care. I will help you, Alara said, her voice resolute. But you must understand that the harmony of life comes not from magic alone, but from respect and care for the threads that connect all things. Lyra nodded fervently. I'll do whatever it takes. Alara led Lyra to the elder tree, which stood as a sentinel of wisdom. The ancient tree greeted the girl, its voice resonating with a deep, timeless authority. Child of humanity, you come seeking life where there is none. To restore what has been lost, you must first learn to listen to the earth, to the waters, and to the wind. Under the guidance of Alara and the elder tree, Lyra spent days in the forest, learning the ways of the weavers. She watched as they wove threads of light into the fabric of the trees, the streams, and the soil. She discovered that the forest's magic was not a quick fix, but a process of nurturing and balance. When the time came for Lyra to return to her village, Alara entrusted her with a single glowing seed from the harmony tree. This seed carries the essence of balance, Alara explained. Plant it in your village, but remember it will not grow unless the people care for it, protecting the harmony it represents. With gratitude in her heart, Lyra bowed deeply. I will not forget your teachings. I will ensure that my people honor the threads that connect us all. As Lyra departed, the forest seemed to hum with approval. The weavers watched her go, their spirits filled with hope. For the first time in generations, a bridge had been formed between their hidden world and the realm of humanity. Years later, news reached the forest of a thriving land beyond the mountains. The glowing seed had grown into a tree much like the harmony tree, its golden leaves spreading light and life across the village. The people, inspired by Lyra's teachings, worked to heal their lands and live in harmony with nature. Alara, standing beneath the harmony tree, felt a quiet joy. The threads she had woven long ago continued to spread, connecting lives and lands in ways she could never have imagined. The forest remained her home, but its story had grown far beyond its borders, a testament to the enduring power of balance and unity. And so, the tale of Alara and the forest spirits became more than a legend, it became a legacy that bridged worlds, ensuring that the tapestry of life would continue to thrive for generations to come. The years turned into decades, and the bond between the forest and the human village deepened. Lyra's glowing tree, known as the Tree of Renewal, became a symbol of hope and resilience. People from distant lands traveled to see it, each bringing stories of their struggles and dreams of restoring balance to their homes. Inspired by Lyra's example, they began planting seeds of their own, spreading the lessons of harmony far and wide. Meanwhile, within the ancient forest, Alara noticed subtle changes. The winds carried new melodies, woven with threads of human voices, laughter, and songs of gratitude. The once isolated realm of the weavers was now connected to a growing web of life that extended beyond the trees, rivers, and mountains. One evening, as the forest bathed in the golden hues of twilight, Alara stood before the elder tree. The world is changing, she said softly, her voice filled with both wonder and uncertainty. Our threads now reach far beyond what we once knew. Have we done the right thing? The elder tree's deep, resonant voice answered with wisdom. Change is the nature of life, Alara. To weave is to connect, and to connect is to grow. The harmony we nurtured here was never meant to remain confined. It is a gift to be shared, just as the winds share their songs and the rivers share their waters. Alara nodded, feeling the weight of the elder tree's words. Yet, her heart sensed another calling, one she could not yet define. For all her work within the forest, she felt a yearning to witness how the seeds of harmony were transforming the world beyond. One day, as the first snow of winter blanketed the forest, a familiar figure appeared at its edge. It was Lyra, now older, her hair streaked with silver but her spirit as vibrant as ever. She carried with her a small group of travelers, farmers, healers, and storytellers, each bearing gifts of thanks for the weavers. Lyra approached Alara with a warm smile. Alara, she began, the tree of renewal has flourished, and its teachings have spread. But there is still much to do. In our travels, we've encountered lands that are barren, rivers that run dry, and people who have forgotten the wisdom of harmony. They need Gui dance your guidance. Alara hesitated, her luminous form flickering as she considered Lyra's words. I am bound to the forest, Lyra. It is my home and the source of my strength. How can I leave it behind? Lyra placed a hand over her heart. The forest will always be with you. Its essence is in every step you take, every thread you weave. The world needs you now, just as I once needed you. After a long silence, Alara turned to the elder tree. Is this my path? She asked. The elder tree's branches swayed as it answered. The forest will endure, Alara. It is your choice to stay or to carry its wisdom to the world. Whatever you decide, know that the threads of life will remain strong. With the blessings of the elder tree and the weavers, Alara made her decision. She would journey beyond the forest, not to leave it behind, but to extend its reach and teach others how to weave their own threads of harmony. The day of her departure was bittersweet. The weavers gathered to send her off, their voices rising in a song that echoed through the trees. As Alara stepped beyond the forest's edge, she felt its energy flowing within her, guiding her steps. Her journey took her to distant lands, each with its own challenges and wonders. She mended broken rivers, revived barren fields, and rekindled hope in the hearts of those who had lost their way. Everywhere she went, she shared the teachings of the weavers, planting seeds of renewal and unity. Back in the forest, the harmony tree stood tall, its golden leaves shimmering as if to signal that Alara's work was not an end but a beginning. The forest thrived, its story carried by the wind, reaching every corner of the world. And so, Alara became more than a spirit of the forest, she became a guardian of the world, her name whispered in the songs of rivers. The rustle of leaves, and the hearts of those who cherished the threads of life she had woven. As Alara traveled across the lands, she became known not just as a spirit of the forest, but as a teacher, a healer, and a guide. In each village she visited, she worked with the people, teaching them to listen to the land, to the wind, to the trees. She showed them how to care for the earth and how to weave their lives into the delicate balance that sustained all things. But even as Alara shared her knowledge, the world was changing in ways that none of them could have anticipated. Far to the east, in a land where the sun burned hot and the wind whispered of forgotten dreams, a new darkness was stirring. Unlike the void that had been healed long ago, this darkness was not a result of neglect or imbalance. It was born of fear of change, fear of the unknown, and fear of losing control. This new force, known as the Silent Storm, began to spread across the lands, eroding the harmony that Alara and the weavers had worked so hard to create. The Silent Storm did not seek to consume or destroy, it sought to silence the world. It quieted the songs of the rivers, muted the whispers of the trees, and dulled the voices of the people. Those who fell under its sway became numb, their hearts closed off to the wisdom of nature. Alara sensed this new disturbance before it reached the places she had visited. The winds had carried whispers of the silent storm, and she could feel its cold touch as it moved across the world. It was a challenge unlike any she had faced before, one that could not be resolved with healing alone. This darkness was born of the hearts of those who feared change, and it required more than just teaching. It required understanding, empathy, and connection. Alara knew that she could not face the silent storm alone. She returned to the forest, seeking the counsel of the elder tree and the weavers. The harmony tree, now a symbol of hope and renewal, stood proudly in the center of the forest, its golden leaves glimmering in the twilight. Alara, the elder tree said, its voice deep with concern, "The silent storm is different from any darkness we've faced before. It is not of the earth, nor of the winds, but of the hearts of those who fear the change that the threads of life bring. To stop it, you must teach them to listen to their own hearts, to open their minds to the possibility of harmony." Alara stood before the elder tree, her heart heavy with the weight of this new task. How can I help those who do not wish to hear? How can I bring back the light when they have closed their hearts? The key to the silent storm lies within the people themselves, the elder tree replied. You must show them that their hearts are not separate from the world around them. You must help them realize that they, too, are part of the great tapestry of life. Only then will the storm lose its power. With this wisdom in mind, Alara set out once again, this time to a land where the silent storm had already begun to take root. The people there were distant and withdrawn, their eyes filled with distrust. The land itself had become barren, the once vibrant fields now pale and dry. The rivers, too, had lost their song, their waters still and lifeless. When Alara arrived, the people watched her with suspicion. She was not like them, her presence was otherworldly, and her message seemed foreign to their hardened hearts. But Alara was patient. She began by simply sitting with them, listening to their stories and their fears. She did not try to change them at first. Instead, she helped them remember what they had lost: the sound of the wind through the trees, the beauty of the sunrise, the feeling of connection to the earth. One evening, as the sun set behind the barren hills, Alara gathered the people together. She spoke softly, but her words carried the weight of the forest's wisdom. The world is not a place to be feared, she said. It is a place to be loved. The threads that weave us together are the same threads that bind the earth, the sky, and all that lives. If you close your hearts, you will no longer hear the songs of the wind, the whispers of the trees. You will no longer see the beauty in the world around you. At first, the people remained silent, but slowly, one by one, they began to speak. They shared their stories of love and loss, of dreams and regrets. And as they did, Alara's light grew brighter, the golden glow of the harmony tree reflected in the soft glow of their hearts. The silent storm began to recede, not because of any magic or force, but because the people had begun to listen to each other, to the earth, and to themselves. It was not an easy journey. The silent storm's grip on their hearts had been strong, and many of the people struggled to open themselves to the world once more. But Alara's patience and love, coupled with the wisdom of the weavers, helped them find their way. As the land slowly began to heal, the rivers began to flow once again, their waters sparkling under the sun. The fields turned green, and the air was filled with the songs of birds returning home. And in the center of the village, a new tree began to grow, one that glowed with a soft, golden light, much like the harmony tree. Alara stood beneath this new tree, her heart filled with quiet joy. She knew that the silent storm had not been defeated by force, but by love, understanding, and the willingness to listen. The tapestry of life had been mended once again. And so, Alara continued her journey not as a spirit of the forest, but as a guardian of the world, weaving the threads of harmony wherever they were needed. teaching others to listen to the whispers of the earth and to open their hearts to the beauty of the world around them. Alara's work across the world continued, and with each new village, each new forest, and each new land she touched, the threads of harmony slowly wove their way back into the fabric of life. Her journey took her through valleys of despair and mountains of hope, where the echoes of the silent storm still lingered. Yet, with every step she took, the world seemed to bloom, not because of her magic, but because of the hearts that had learned to open once more. But as Alara's legend spread, so too did whispers of another force, a force older and deeper than the silent storm. A force that was said to lie beneath the earth itself, hidden from sight but always present. It was known as the root of despair. The root of despair was said to be the very source of all suffering in the world. A deep well of pain and sorrow that existed in every heart, waiting to be awakened. Unlike the silent storm, which had been born of fear, the root of despair was born of loss and hopelessness. Those who had given up, who had lost everything and believed that no harmony could ever be restored. This root, once awakened, could twist and strangle the very essence of life, draining the world of its vitality. One day, as Alara traveled to a distant island across an endless sea, she felt a strange shift in the air. The winds were heavy with sorrow, and the waves seemed to whisper of an ancient presence. It was then that she learned of a village at the edge of the sea, where the people had fallen into despair. The trees around the village had withered, and the once vibrant coral reefs now lay dead, their colors faded to gray. Alara arrived in the village to find its people listless, their eyes hollow with hopelessness. They no longer spoke to one another, no longer looked toward the horizon with dreams of a brighter future. Their hearts had closed off, and with them, the very land had begun to decay. Alara knelt by the shore, her fingers trailing through the sand. The earth beneath her felt heavy, as if something deep within it was crying out. She could feel it now, the presence of the root of despair, tangled beneath the surface, poisoning the land and the hearts of those who lived above it. "I have heard of this force," Alara whispered to the wind. "It is not a darkness that can be defeated by light alone. It is the absence of light itself." The villagers, sensing her presence, gathered around her, their faces marked with years of sorrow. One woman stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Can you help us? We have lost everything. The sea no longer brings us fish. The soil no longer nourishes our crops. We do not know how to live anymore." Alara looked at the woman, her heart aching for the pain that resonated in her words. She knew that this was not a challenge that could be fixed by magic or spells. This was a deeper wound, one that ran through the very fabric of their souls. "The root of despair does not grow in the earth," Alara said softly. "It grows in the hearts of those who have lost hope. I cannot pull it from the land, for it is a part of you. But I can help you rediscover the light within." The people listened, their eyes flickering with a spark of curiosity, but many still held onto their pain. They had seen too much suffering to believe that anything could heal them. But Alara continued, her voice calm and steady. "The light within you is not gone, even if it feels distant. You must remember the beauty you once saw in the world, the laughter of children, the warmth of the sun, the songs of the sea. These things have not vanished. They are still here, waiting for you to see them again. And as you open your hearts to this light, the root of despair will begin to wither." For days, Alara stayed in the village, working with the people. She did not force them to change. Instead, she gently guided them to reconnect with the simple things that had once brought them joy. She took them to the shore to watch the sunset, where the sky blazed with colors they had long forgotten. She showed them the first shoots of green pushing through the cracked earth, a sign that life could return. It was not an easy journey. Many of the villagers still struggled with the weight of their pain, unable to believe that anything could truly change. But slowly, through small acts of kindness, remembrance, and shared stories, the root of despair began to loosen its hold. The people began to smile again, to speak to one another, and to dream once more. On the final day of her visit, Alara stood by the shore, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon. The villagers gathered around her, their faces now full of hope and gratitude. "We will rebuild," the woman who had spoken earlier said, her voice stronger now. "We will plant new seeds, tend to the earth, and honor the sea. And we will never forget what you have taught us." Alara smiled, her heart light with the knowledge that the light had returned to their hearts. She had not defeated the root of despair through force or magic, but through love and patience. She had helped them remember that even in the darkest times, there was always the possibility for renewal. As Alara turned to leave, the winds around her seemed lighter, the waves gentler. She knew that her work was never truly done. There would always be more lands to visit, more hearts to heal, more threads to weave. But as she walked away, she felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that the world was a little brighter, a little more connected than it had been before. And so, Alara's journey continued, weaving threads of hope, healing, and harmony wherever they were needed. Knowing that the light within the hearts of all beings would always guide her path. Alara's travels took her to more distant lands, each one different from the last, yet each one carrying its own burdens. The villagers who had healed from the root of despair now sent word of Alara's deeds to their neighbors, and soon, her presence was felt far and wide. People sought her wisdom, hoping that her guidance could help them overcome their own trials. Yet as Alara's journey continued, she sensed a greater challenge approaching. The harmony she had worked so hard to weave seemed to be unraveling in places where fear and greed took root. While the people who had once fallen into despair had learned to reconnect with the land, new troubles had emerged. The balance she had fought to restore was threatened by those who sought power for themselves, who took more than they needed and ignored the well-being of the earth. Alara heard of a city to the north, a bustling place built on the shores of a great river. The city was known for its wealth and prosperity, but also for its relentless hunger for more. The land that surrounded it had begun to wither, and the river, once flowing with vibrant energy, now ran thick and sluggish. The people of the city had built their empire on the backs of others, consuming the resources of the land without understanding the cost. Alara arrived at the city, her heart heavy with the knowledge of what she might find. The streets were crowded with people who had little time for each other, rushing from one task to the next, their faces pale and weary. The markets overflowed with goods, but there was a hollow quality to the air, as though something essential was missing. At the city's heart stood a grand palace, where the ruler's elite council presided over the wealth of the land. Alara sought an audience with them, knowing that she could not ignore the root of the city's troubles. It was here, in the minds and hearts of those who held power, that the imbalance had taken root. When Alara was finally granted entry, she stood before the council, her presence quiet but commanding. The rulers, sitting on their gilded thrones, eyed her with suspicion. "You are the one they call the Weaver," one of them said, his voice sharp. "What is it that you seek here?" Alara met his gaze with a calmness that came from her long years of wisdom. "I seek nothing but the truth," she replied. "The land around your city is dying, and so are your people. You have taken too much without giving back. The river has begun to dry, the earth has become barren. But there is still time to heal, if you are willing to listen." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. "And what is it that you expect us to do?" Another ruler scoffed. "We have built this city through strength and resourcefulness. We owe nothing to the land. It is the way of the world." Alara's heart sank, but she remained composed. The land does not belong to you. You belong to it. Every tree, every river, every stone is a thread in the great tapestry of life. When you take from the earth without care, you weaken the weave. And when the weave weakens, it is not only the earth that suffers, but you as well. For a moment, the council was silent, and Alara could see the flicker of doubt in their eyes. They were not evil, she realized. They had simply forgotten the harmony that had once been part of their lives. Their hunger for power had blinded them to the interconnectedness of all things. I do not ask you to give up everything, Alara continued, her voice soft but firm. I ask you to remember the balance. To listen to the river, to hear the trees, to feel the soil beneath your feet. The earth can provide all you need, but only if you honor it. The rulers looked at one another, their faces torn between pride and fear. They had spent their lives believing in the supremacy of their city, in the strength of their control over the land. To relinquish that control was a terrifying thought. But Alara's words echoed in their minds, planting seeds of doubt in their hearts. Finally, one of the rulers, an older woman whose face was lined with age and experience, spoke. What you say is true, I believe. We have forgotten the earth's voice. But how do we begin to heal what we have broken? Alara smiled gently, her heart lifting. You begin with one small change. Begin by listening. Spend time with the earth, with the people who till the soil, with the waters that flow through your land. Recognize that you are not separate from nature. You are a part of it, and in caring for it, you care for yourselves. The council reluctantly agreed to Alara's guidance. She spent weeks in the city, working alongside the rulers and the people, helping them reconnect with the land. They planted new trees by the river, worked to clear the channels that had become clogged, and began to live more simply, taking only what they needed and giving back to the earth. As the city slowly began to change, so too did the land. The river began to flow more freely, its waters growing clearer. The soil became rich again, and the once barren fields began to blossom with new life. The people of the city, who had once been disconnected from nature, began to feel its pulse beneath their feet. In time, the city became a model for others where wealth and power were not measured by what was taken, but by what was given. The rulers, having learned to listen to the land and its people, became stewards of the earth, ensuring that their city thrived in harmony with the world around it. And Alara, once again, continued her journey, knowing that the threads of life were stronger than ever. The world was vast, and her work was never truly done. But with each village, each land, and each heart she touched, the tapestry of harmony grew more beautiful, more resilient, and more interconnected. As the city flourished, Alara knew her work there was complete. The rulers had learned to respect the land, and the people had begun to reconnect with the earth, the river, and the sky. The city had become a symbol of balance, and news of its transformation spread across the lands. Yet, even as Alara prepared to leave, a new sense of unease filled the air. She felt it as she stood by the river, watching the once dying waters now flow freely again. It was a strange feeling, as if something unseen was stirring in the shadows. Her travels had taught her many things, but it was clear that there was more to this world than just the physical threads of life. There were forces beyond even the balance of nature. These forces were ancient, born before the trees and rivers, before the mountains and seas. They were the primal forces that governed the stars, the winds, and the cycles of the earth. One night, as Alara camped under a canopy of stars, she was visited by an old figure, cloaked in the shadow of the night. The figure approached her quietly, and Alara sensed an ancient power in the air. You've done much, the figure said in a voice that echoed like the winds of time. But your work is not yet finished. There are forces at play that even you cannot yet understand. You have woven the threads of life in the hearts of many, but there are other threads, darker threads that you must confront. Alara stood and faced the figure, her heart steady. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice calm but filled with curiosity. "I am the keeper of the boundaries," the figure replied. "I watch over the balance between the known and the unknown, the light and the dark. There are forces ancient and powerful that seek to unravel the tapestry of life. You have seen the effects of despair, of greed, of fear. But there are deeper forces that come from beyond the earth itself." Alara felt a chill in the air, and for the first time in her journey, doubt crept into her heart. "What do you mean? I've already faced darkness before. I've healed the land, healed the hearts of those who had forgotten the truth of the world. What else is there?" The keeper's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, like two distant stars. "The forces I speak of are not born of human actions alone. They are primal, tied to the very fabric of the universe. They are the forces of entropy, of decay, of nothingness. And they are awakening." Alara stood silently, the weight of the keeper's words settling in her chest. She had known that balance was fragile, but now she understood that there were deeper forces beyond her control, forces that threatened not just the land, but the very essence of existence. "The balance you have worked to restore is but one thread in a vast web," the keeper continued. "The universe is made of many such threads, and there are forces that seek to unravel them. You are the thread weaver, Alara. But now, you must confront the force that seeks to sever the threads of life itself." Alara took a deep breath, her heart steadying as the stars above her seemed to flicker and pulse. She knew that her journey had taken a new turn, that she was about to face an unknown challenge. One that would test everything she had learned, everything she had become. "I am ready," Alara said quietly. "I will face whatever comes. If there are forces that seek to unravel the tapestry of life, then I will stand against them. I will weave the threads once more, even in the face of the unknown." The keeper nodded, a faint smile crossing their lips. "You are not alone, Alara. There are others who stand with you. The world you have healed is only one part of the greater tapestry. The time has come for you to unite all the threads, light and dark, known and unknown. Only then can the true balance be achieved." With those words, the keeper vanished into the shadows, leaving Alara alone beneath the stars. Her heart was filled with a new resolve. She knew that her path was not over, it had only just begun. In the coming days, Alara would travel to new lands, seek out new allies, and uncover ancient secrets that had long been hidden. She would confront the forces of entropy and decay, and learn what it truly meant to weave the threads of life, threads that spanned not just the earth, but the very cosmos itself. And so, Alara's journey continued, but now with a deeper understanding. To restore balance, she would need to embrace not only the light, but the dark as well. For the true power of a weaver lies not in creating a perfect tapestry, but in knowing how to mend the broken threads and embrace the beauty of imperfection. Alara's heart burned with resolve as she prepared to embark on her next journey. The keeper's words echoed in her mind, and she could feel the weight of the task ahead of her. She had always known that the threads of life were fragile, but now she understood that there were forces far beyond her control, forces that threatened not only the physical world but the very essence of existence itself. The keeper had spoken of primal forces, entropy, decay, and nothingness, forces that existed beyond the scope of human actions or even natural disasters. They were woven into the fabric of the cosmos, tied to the cycles of life and death, creation and destruction. These forces existed in the spaces between stars, in the darkness between worlds, and they were awakening. Alara knew that to confront this force, she would need to call upon all the wisdom she had gathered, and she would need to seek out others who could help her. Her journey had always been about balance, but now she faced a challenge that could not be solved by weaving the threads alone. She began her travels once again, heading to lands where the balance had not been so easily restored. Along the way, she encountered beings she had never met before, beings who existed between the worlds of light and darkness. These beings were ancient, their forms shifting and unclear, but their presence was undeniable. They were guardians of the thresholds, protectors of the unseen spaces where the fabric of the universe was most vulnerable. In the heart of a forgotten forest, Alara met one such being, a figure cloaked in silver, whose eyes glowed like the moon. This being was known as Seraphis, the guardian of the void. A being who understood the true nature of entropy and the cosmic forces that Alara now sought to confront. You seek to understand the force that seeks to unravel the threads of life, Seraphis said, their voice like the rustling of leaves in a windless forest. You are brave, Alara, but you must understand that to confront this force is to confront the very essence of existence. It is not something to be taken lightly. I have seen the damage caused by imbalance, Alara replied, her voice firm. I have healed despair, greed, and fear, but now I understand that these are merely symptoms of a greater force, a force that cannot be ignored any longer. Seraphis nodded, their forms shifting like smoke in the moonlight. The force you face is not one that can be fought with strength or willpower alone. It is the force of inevitability, the force that calls all things to their end. It is not evil, it is simply the other side of the coin. Without it, there could be no creation, no life. But in its unchecked form, it is a cancer that spreads through the fabric of the universe. Alara's heart trembled as Seraphis's words sank in. This force was not something to be destroyed, it was a part of the very cycles of life. But in its unchecked form, it could unravel everything, returning the universe to nothingness. How can I stop it? Alara asked, her voice steady but filled with the weight of the question. You cannot stop it, Alara, Seraphis answered. You can only learn to weave the threads of life and death together. You must understand that the thread of decay is just as important as the thread of creation. They are bound together, each supporting the other. Only through embracing both can the true balance be restored. The words struck Alara like a thunderclap. She had spent her entire journey fighting to heal the world, to restore the light. But now she realized that the path forward required something far more difficult. It was not about defeating the darkness, but understanding it, weaving it into the greater tapestry. Seraphis extended a hand, and a vision of the universe unfolded before Alara's eyes, a vast, swirling tapestry of light and darkness, of life and death, of creation and entropy. She saw how every star was born, lived, and died, how every tree grew and decayed, how every moment was part of an eternal cycle. The force she faced was not a singular enemy, but a part of the very cycles that governed the cosmos. You are the weaver, Seraphis said softly. You must learn to weave the threads of life and death together. Only then will you have the power to restore the true balance of the universe. Alara stood still, feeling the weight of the task ahead. It was a lesson that had eluded her for so long, that life and death, creation and destruction, were two sides of the same coin. One could not exist without the other. She had always sought to heal, to mend, to restore, but now she understood that her journey was not just about saving the world, it was about understanding the delicate dance between all forces, light and dark, creation and entropy. How do I begin? Alara asked, her voice filled with a quiet determination. Seraphis smiled, a flicker of starlight in their eyes. The journey is never truly over, Alara. You must continue weaving. Embrace the dark as much as the light. Learn to understand the spaces between those unseen threads that bind all things together. It is in these spaces that the true balance lies. And so, Alara's journey continued not as a healer of the land, but as a weaver of the cosmos. One who understood the intricate balance of life and death, light and dark. She no longer sought to heal the world by eliminating darkness, but by embracing the entire tapestry, weaving the threads of both creation and destruction into one harmonious whole. She traveled far and wide, learning from the beings who existed between the worlds, understanding the deeper forces that shaped the universe. And with each step, she grew wiser, her heart more open to the beauty of imperfection, the necessity of both light and dark. And as she stood at the edge of the world, gazing into the vast expanse of stars, Alara knew that the true work of the weaver was not to create perfection, but to understand that both life and death were necessary threads in the grand tapestry. For only by embracing the whole could the universe continue its dance of creation and renewal. As Alara continued her journey, the weight of Seraphus's teachings settled deeply in her heart. No longer was she merely the weaver of the earth's threads now, she sought to understand the universal fabric. The delicate balance between creation and destruction that spanned across time and space. Her task had grown infinitely more complex, and yet, the beauty of it filled her with purpose. Her travels took her to the edges of the known world, to places where the boundaries between life and death were thin, where creation and entropy collided in mesmerizing displays. These lands were often forgotten by the people who lived in the more prosperous areas, as they seemed too dangerous, too unpredictable. But Alara knew these lands were essential. They held the answers she sought. In a desolate valley, where the last remnants of a once thriving civilization lay scattered beneath the harsh winds, Alara met an old woman named Alia. Alia had lived in the valley her whole life, witnessing both the rise and fall of empires, seeing how creation and destruction intertwined in an endless cycle. The valley was barren now, the once lush fields turned to dust, but Alia was unbothered. She had learned the ways of entropy long ago. "I've lived through countless seasons of change," Alia said, her voice strong despite her age. "I've seen great kingdoms rise from the earth and fall into ruin. The people come and go, but the land? The land endures. It changes, it shifts, but it remains." Alara sat beside Alia, feeling the ancient wisdom in her words. "I've learned that the world is not about defeating the darkness or the decay. It's about embracing the forces of life and death. But how can I truly understand entropy if I only see it as destruction? How do I learn to weave it, to make it a part of the whole?" Alia chuckled softly. "You must stop seeing it as something to be feared, child. Entropy is not an enemy, it is a force of transformation. It is a necessary part of the cycle. The trees that fall nourish the soil, the stars that burn out give birth to new worlds. All things must end, so that new things can begin." Alara listened intently, her heart opening further to Alia's wisdom. "But how do I stop the fear that comes with it? How do I teach others to see this balance?" "The fear is natural," Alia said. "But it is also an illusion. People fear change because they cannot see beyond the immediate moment. The secret lies in perspective. If you understand the cycle, if you can feel the flow of life and death, you will know that there is no end, only transformation. There is beauty in decay, just as there is beauty in creation. It is the ebb and flow that makes life possible." With these words, Alara's path became clearer. She knew now that to truly heal the world, to restore the balance, she had to guide others to see the beauty in all things, creation, preservation, and destruction alike. It was not enough to only heal the land or the hearts of people, she needed to help them embrace the eternal cycle. Alara continued to travel, teaching those she met about the great tapestry of life. She visited cities that had been built on the backs of others, showing them the importance of giving back to the earth, reminding them that their wealth was a thread in a much larger weave. She visited villages that had been torn apart by fear and greed, helping them to reconnect with the land, teaching them that the cycles of death and rebirth were not to be feared but honored. But as Alara spread her teachings, a new challenge arose. The cosmic forces that had once seemed distant now began to manifest in more tangible ways. Strange anomalies began to appear across the world, rivers running backward, the seasons growing erratic, and the land itself warping in strange and unnatural ways. It was as though the fabric of the universe itself was beginning to fray. One day, while standing on a mountain peak, Alara looked up at the stars and felt a shudder of unease. The threads she had woven, threads of balance, of creation and destruction, were being stretched to their limits. She could feel the primal forces, the forces of entropy and creation, clashing more violently than before. "It's time," Alara murmured to herself, her voice barely a whisper in the wind. Time to weave the final threads. She knew that the balance she had been working to restore could no longer be maintained by teaching alone. The world itself was beginning to demand a deeper understanding of the forces that governed it. Alara had to go beyond the land, beyond the people. She had to confront the cosmic forces directly. Determined, Alara journeyed to the highest point on the earth, a place where the veil between worlds was thin, and the boundaries of life and death were indistinct. Here, in the heart of the cosmos, she could feel the pulse of creation and entropy, the very forces that shaped the universe. Standing at the edge of existence, Alara closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, her heart, and her spirit. She called out to the forces of the cosmic weavers of the universe. Those who had woven the first threads of life and death, those who understood the true nature of balance. "I am Alara, the weaver of the earth," she said, her voice strong but filled with reverence. "I seek to understand the great balance of the cosmos. I have learned that creation and destruction are not enemies, they are two sides of the same coin. But the threads are fraying, and I need your guidance." A silence fell over the world, and then, from the stars themselves, came an answer. A voice, ancient and wise, echoed through the very fabric of existence. "You have learned well, Alara," the voice said. "But there is one final truth you must understand: the threads of life are not yours to control. You are but a part of the great weave, a single thread among many. It is only by surrendering to the greater flow that you can restore true balance." Alara opened her eyes, and in that moment, she understood. The forces of creation and entropy could not be controlled or mastered. They could only be embraced. To restore the true balance, she must surrender her will to the flow of the universe, understanding that she was but one thread in the vast cosmic tapestry. With this realization, Alara stood tall, her heart filled with peace. She closed her eyes and, for the first time, allowed herself to feel the full power of the universe coursing through her. She felt the pulse of creation, the flow of entropy, and the eternal dance between them. In that moment, the threads of life, death, creation, and destruction came together in a perfect weave, and the world indeed. The entire cosmos was restored to balance. Alara had woven the threads of life, not by controlling them, but by surrendering to the flow of the universe. She had learned the final truth of the weaver: that true balance comes from understanding and embracing the forces that shape existence, not by resisting them. And so, Alara's journey continued not as a teacher or healer, but as a part of the eternal dance of creation and destruction, light and dark. She had become one with the fabric of the cosmos, forever weaving the threads of life. Today's story ends here. See you later.